Good stewards know we are made in the image of God, the Trinity, the divine, perfect family. Let me see a show of hands. How many of you have seen the 1985 movie, There Were Times, Dear? No, I didn't expect anyone would have seen it. It was not a very popular movie, but I'm using it as the basis tonight for my first modern parable. Suzanne and Fred were married just over 40 years, and Suzanne had depended upon Fred all of those years. She would say over and over, "He's my rock." Suzanne depended upon Fred financially, emotionally, spiritually. But shortly after that 40th wedding anniversary, Fred developed Alzheimer's. And 4 years later, Fred was a drooling invalid. He no longer knew who Suzanne was, didn't even know her name. And Suzanne, who had depended upon Fred as her rock, now realized she had to be his rock. And she was scared to death. But she got up every morning and she took care of her husband. She got him up, dressed him, bathed him, clothed him, fed him, changed his diapers. And from time to time, Fred, who no longer remembered virtually anything, and certainly not Suzanne, got frustrated and he would slap out at Suzanne. After one of those incidents, Suzanne prayed. She went into her bedroom, looked up at a crucifix on the wall, and she had an epiphany, a revelation. She said, all those years, those 40 years, I thought I couldn't love Fred more. He did all those things for me. But all of a sudden I recognized, Jesus, I understand now what love truly is. Love is me. Love is me sacrificing me for the one I love. And she realized with great tenderness in her heart that she loved her husband more than she ever had. It was no longer just an emotional experience. It was service. It was giving. It was sacrifice. So why do I tell the story of There Were Times, Dear? Because I think it fits into today's feast, the Feast of the Trinity. And I'm going to get around back to the story. The Trinity. All over the world today, priests have been preaching that the Trinity is a mystery. How can there be three persons in one God? And in many ways, they're correct. I don't know whether when we get to heaven, we're going to fully understand the Trinity. Probably not, because it's infinitely deep. But we'll have a good grasp. Nonetheless, even though there's mystery there, I think it's relatively simple. God made us in His image. It's revealed to us. Not my opinion, it's revelation. So if we want to see God, He, having made us in His image, We just look at each other. Take away the negatives, magnify the positives infinitely. That's God. And if we want to see the core, the essence of God, we look at the core, the essence of humanity. And that's family. Think about it. Not all that difficult. From all eternity, God the Father, the church tells us, loved God the Son perfectly. And don't get hung up on the male nouns and pronouns. You could just as easily say God the Mother loved God the Daughter from all eternity perfectly. And the product, the church says, of that eternal love is the Holy Spirit. From all eternity. The Holy Spirit didn't come after the Father and the Son. From all eternity, Father loves Son, Son loves Father perfectly, and the product of their love is the Holy Spirit. 3 persons in one divine, perfect family. That's what God is. Divine, perfect family. And He made us in His image. That's why family is the core. Family, the church says, is our domestic church. We're supposed to love everyone, but we learn how. We learn mostly in our families how to be godlike, how to love, and love sacrificially. Here's the rest of the story about the Trinity. At a time, outside of time, God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are sitting around. God the Father is saying, you know, guys, we got this thing called love. It is fabulous. It's perfect. And we've got to give it away. If you don't give away love, it is not love. God the Father continues, you know, so let's make some beings. We'll make them in our image. We'll make them like us. But then He looked at the Son and said, but Son, you've known from all eternity, as the 2 of us have as well, that we got to give them free will. We can't make robots. They can't choose. They can't choose to love. They can't choose to someday get up to heaven and join us. So we got to give them free will, and they're going to mess up, they're going to sin, and they're going to sin often, and they're going to sin big time. And Son, you've known from all eternity that the heart of love being sacrifice, that you're going to go down there and sacrifice for them. You're going to forgive them their sins in an excruciatingly painful death on a cross. So what have we learned so far? We've learned God is the divine, perfect family. That He made us. He made us out of perfect love to someday get up to heaven and join His holy divine family up there. And we have learned that the heart, the essence of love, is sacrifice. Me for you, even if you don't deserve it. So here's another modern parable. It takes place in 1933, the heart of the Depression. Sally and her dad lived in a shack. No electricity, no plumbing, no running water. It was February, it was cold, it was rainy outside, and Sally heard a knock at the front door of the shack, and she went and opened it up, and there was an elderly man standing there, beard drenched, hair, long hair, drenched, hanging around his ears, clothes wet. And before he could say a word, Sally ran, back into the interior of the shack and said, "Daddy, there's a scary man at the door." So her dad went to the front door, talked to the man a little bit, invited him in. The man had told him he hadn't eaten in 3 days. He was very hungry and wanted to know whether he could help out. Well, Sally and her dad had in their shack 4 slices of white bread, 2 slices of bologna, 2 small cookies in a cookie jar. That was all the food they had. Sally and her dad had talked about it earlier that day, that they weren't sure where the food would come from the next day. But that was their supper. Sally's dad took out 2 of those slices of bread, put a slice of bologna in between them, and gave them to the elderly man. The elderly man put the sandwich in a pocket because he said, "Look, I'm scaring your daughter. I'll eat it somewhere else. Thank you." Sally's dad then took one of those small cookies out of the jar and put it in his other pocket. When the man left, Sally asked her dad, "Daddy, why did you do that?" And her dad said, "Well, that's what family does." And Sally said, "Daddy's not our family." And her daddy said, "Let me teach you something, sweetie." "Yes, he is. We are all God's children. He made us, and He made us in His image. He's the divine, perfect family. We're not perfect, but we're called to do the best we can to be like our God. He was our spiritual brother. And yes, we had to sacrifice to help him out." And then the dad asked Sally, "Sally, do you understand?" And Sally said, "Yeah, Dad, I think I do. I'm going to share half of my bologna sandwich with you." My sisters and brothers, Sally understands. Her dad understands. Suzanne understands. Do we? We're all in this together. We're all family, and we're all made in God's image. And we're all called to be good stewards. And good stewards know we are made in the image of God, the Trinity, the divine, perfect family